What does Seda look like? What if something we've only ever heard about suddenly appears right in front of our eyes? I know it's a bit strange to imagine, but this phenomenon is called cymatics. A sound wave can make grains of sand or even water move in such a way that perfectly geometric and orderly shapes are formed, just like patterns that look as if they've been drawn with a ruler and compass. There's no extra movement among these particles. Only that precise pattern remains. This means that something we've only ever heard with our ears now appears right before our eyes, just like a living painting. So, in this program, we want to dive into the fascinating world of sound and vibration and see how nature paints with sound waves. Let's start with a very simple experiment. Place a flat metal plate on a table and sprinkle a little sand on its surface. At first glance, it's just a handful of sand scattered on a metal plate. But wait, if you play the violin, pick up your bow and draw it along the edge of the plate. Suddenly, something magical happens. The sand starts to move, not randomly or chaotically, but each grain moves toward a specific pattern, forming clear, geometric shapes, as if an invisible artist is carefully painting with the sand. This experiment was first done in the 18th century by Ernst Chladni, a German musician and physicist, and that's why these patterns are called Chladni figures. Chladni showed how sound can turn into images, and interestingly, he was able to create complex and mesmerizing patterns with just a violin bow. Patterns that still inspire scientists and artists today. Now imagine these same patterns being made with water or fine powder. They look just like natural flowers, snowflakes, or star shapes, and each sound frequency creates its own unique pattern. This phenomenon shows me that sound is more than just something we hear with our ears. Sound can shape matter and directly influence nature and even art. In this regard, Hans Jenny, a Swiss scientist and artist, began experimenting in the 1960s with powder, paste, and liquids on metal plates, creating vibrations at different frequencies. As a result, each frequency would create its own unique geometric pattern on the material. One of his most famous experiments used a Sanskrit chant, and the powder on the plate gathered into a circular shape at a central point. This image closely resembled mandalas and sacred paintings. By the way, let me explain. A mandala is a geometric pattern, usually circular and symmetrical, used in many cultures and religions like Hinduism and Buddhism. Mandalas often symbolize the universe, unity, or inner order. Their shapes can be very simple or very complex, but they're full of repeating and symmetrical patterns. Many artists and people who meditate use mandalas for focus and relaxation. But let's look at the phenomenon of cymatics in some real and tangible examples. The first example is related to Björk, the Icelandic singer and composer known for her creativity and innovation. In her Biophilia tour, she used cymatic patterns to create visual performances, combining elements of art in a stunning way. Then there's Nigel Stanford, a musician and producer, who showed us through his cymatics video how sound can create movement and shape. Some say cymatics is purely a physical phenomenon, the result of the laws of waves, vibration, and frequency, with no mysterious force behind it. But others believe there's a metaphysical energy at play, that these patterns are signs of hidden energies, invisible fields, or even the forces of the universe that can't be seen with the naked eye but reveal themselves through sound. On the other hand, some have a philosophical, naturalistic view, saying that everything in the universe, living or non-living, has its own frequency and is part of a kind of universal harmony. Everything vibrates together in a grand symphony. There's also a classic physics theory that says Chladni figures are created because of something called standing waves. In these waves, there are places with the least vibration and places with the most. The spots with the least vibration are called nodes, and the spots with the most are called antinodes or crests. In cymatics, sand or powder gathers at the nodes because those points don't vibrate, which is why precise geometric patterns form. Let me give you an example. Imagine a bowl of water, and you create vibrations inside it with a speaker. In this case, sound waves travel through the water, creating surface waves. When these waves hit the sides of the bowl, they bounce back, creating areas of low and high movement, forming a geometric shape. The interesting thing is that even a tiny change in the amount of water, its density, or the shape of the bowl completely changes the pattern. So, cymatics is both scientific, precise, and beautiful at the same time. Now, it's interesting to know that cymatics isn't just used for art and beauty. In engineering and material science, it's very useful. For example, scientists can change the frequency and intensity of vibrations to control the shape and structure of very small, microscopic materials. In other words, with sound and vibration, they can engineer, design, and control materials. What's even more fascinating is that these patterns don't just appear in sand and water. They can also exist in our bodies and surroundings. Researchers believe these vibrations and frequencies can even affect health, mood, and even learning and memory. That's why in modern therapies, cymatics is used for reducing anxiety and depression through vibrational therapy. So, with all this in mind, I think cymatics is one of the most beautiful examples of the connection between science and art. When we see how a sound wave can create beautiful geometric shapes, like snowflakes or other forms, we realize just how creative and strange the world is. But what do you think? Leave a comment and tell us your thoughts about the phenomenon of cymatics. Cymatics experiments teach me sound can create beautiful, orderly geometric shapes and even inspire art and science. So what we take away from this video is that sound isn't something we listen to, it has the power to shape things. This means that when we listen to a sound and see its image, we've learned to connect using the universal language of nature.